Hey, this is Alex for healthhacksreview.com. This video is an intro to Vibeplate. So the Vibeplate is a whole body vibration machine, and something that's really unique about this is it's made in the United States. There's only one other company that is, it's Hypergravity. And so what that means is 100% of the product is actually made, controlled, regulated, engineered, so on and so forth, actually in the United States. If that's important to you, then that's pretty much is only an option, one other option. Anyways, besides that, what else makes it unique? Well, it's pretty obvious if you actually take a look at what the plate looks like, the design, compared to a lot of the other plates out there. So they're one of the few that do not have any sort of handlebar arrangement automatically permanently fixed on there. Now, what's nice is you actually can get different types of handlebar setups with a few of the different plate sizes, depending on what your actual unique needs are. So for example, if you're a health practitioner watching this, physical therapist, whatever it is, you're working with patients, clients, sometimes you're going to need a different sort of handlebar setup for that type of situation. And so they have actually some very unique arrangements from situations where there's major rehabilitation required, or you just need kind of your average healthy person just to be using a machine, do some basic exercises on. So that's one unique thing is handlebar arrangement. And then also if you actually just take a look, there's several different types of size plates. And so they have everything from your 24 by 24 up to 24 to 72. It's basically like a yoga mat, it's so large. And quite literally, this is one of the few companies where you can basically do pretty much anything you can creatively come up with from an exercise or movement standpoint. So if you want to do your Pilates routine, you want to do your yoga on that mat, you want to do deep squats with a huge rack, barbell rack with a lot of weight on it, you can definitely do it. And so it's probably for this reason they have so many different types of size plates, and again, very large ones that handle up to 2,400 pounds of capacity. Excuse me, they actually rehabilitate horses, equine therapy, on these plates. So because it can handle so much and it's versatile in its design, that's one of the main reasons why it's been probably so widely accepted in all of the major sports industries, NFL, NBA, so on and so forth, the military. So you got your professional athletes in competitive sports, you have your military, you have just a huge acceptance in a lot of commercial places, chiropractors, physical therapists, and there's just huge lists. It's very widely accepted in those areas, again, because of the versatility and because of the safety in general. So it's a very stable platform. It's again, there's just so many things that are unique about it. Because it is very low to the ground, and we're talking the actual plate's maybe like 1.5 inches off the ground, something like that. It's right around there. I haven't actually measured it, but it's basically like that. So it's very easy to step on. If you have somebody who's very disabled or old, easy to get on and off the thing. That's, for example, a major problem with a power plate. You have a power plate so very high off the ground. It's about I mean, it's at least a foot, if not a little bit more. So it's a big step. It's a big step. And so you'll see, for example, at the gym, if high-end gyms will sometimes have like a power plate. They're not in too many like facilities like that. But if you ever seen anybody try to do exercise routines with their physical trainers, I often wonder, if part of the reason people are having their heart rate raise so much and getting a workout on a power plate is simply because it's a big step. And I mean, now we're just going back to your basic step routine workout. But anyways, it's kind of a tangent. So really, if you want to just easily adapt functional exercises, training, skills for the body, just all that kind of stuff, you don't have to think about, can I do it on this machine that I own? Can I do this exercise? Almost any exercise is translatable to a Vibeplate. So I think that's really neat. And for example, I just did kettlebell swings, a kettlebell workout on mine last week. I didn't have to think, can I do this on a machine? Now, granted, most machines, you just can't do that. And I'm talking about both vertical plate movement and pivotal plate movement. So this Vibeplate is basically a type of vertical. Whole plate basically moves up and down simultaneous across the whole plate, up and down. And a pivotal oscillatory type of plate movement of a lot of brands out there go like the seesaw or teeter-totter movement. So Vibeplate is very stable. Obviously, anybody can really pretty much just walk on it of any age, any condition, especially if you have handlebars on there, and stand and not have a problem with balance or anything like that. And again, it's very low to the ground. But yeah, kettlebell swings I can just get on there and do. I don't have to think, can I do them? I wouldn't really do that on most vertical machines, brands out there, or pivotal brands out there, for one simple reason. One reason is the plates are very, very much smaller on most machines out there. If we're even talking about a vertical, which is generally easier to stand on, most vertical brands out there, again, also the plates are pretty small. And then also then you have the problem of having the big tower permanently fixed on one side of the plate. So, you know, I could, hypothetically, I've never actually done this, do some exercises sideways on some of the other vertical brands out there. It's just going to be limiting though, and I'm going to, you know, risk maybe damaging the tower. There's just some stuff that I wouldn't even attempt. I wouldn't want to damage the machine potentially. Some of the other brands out there. So Vibeplate is very unique. Probably their most unique plate is the very, very long one, 72-inch one, and then also the Vibe cage. And you'll recognize immediately when you see it. It's a guy standing on a plate, or just the plate at the bottom, large one, and it comes around the sides, and then it goes into like a tower over, like that. And it's quite tall. It's like 7 feet tall. And because it's got all these different bars around the sides and the top, you can get all sorts of different upper body, lower body workouts on it. And you can attach resistance bands to all sorts of angles on the bars. This is a very unique idea that some centers have done, is they've also attached like a suspension system, a TRX sort of strap system to it. TRX, by the way, if you go to a gym or a chiropractor, some other facilities have them, is they're like those big tower cage contraptions where sometimes they fix these bands onto the walls, right, in like a cross training room, and they're just like these straps attached to a wall, and you can do all sorts of body weight exercise with it. You can do that actually on the Vibeplate, which is really cool because of that whole Vibe cage system. Anyways, price range is generally from $19.95 up to $4,500. Prices can be more with each model depending based on a couple options, is if you have a handlebar arrangement set up or not. It usually adds in like $100 or something like that. And then the other option you have for almost all the machines, models, plate sizes, is choosing between stainless steel and aluminum. These are very, very rugged, well-built machines, so they're very heavy for some of the larger plates, because remember, they're large plates comparatively to other stuff out there. If you get steel, you can go anywhere from 100 pounds to several hundred pounds, and when you're getting some of the big ones. If you get aluminum, that usually chops off, reduces like 50%, slices the weight in half. So instead of a 100-pound, 24 by 24 plate, let's say, which is their smallest one, it might be 45 pounds for aluminum. Increase of cost, steel is much more expensive in the industry, just in general. Usually tax on $100, $200 more, or a little bit more if it's a much, much larger plate to basically shift to steel. It's usually like around a couple $100 more though. But that is something that you'll want to consider as well. So there's a few different options there. Along the sides of the plate, it's not always noticeable, but it is in some pictures. They do have little handlebar type of, I forget what the term is. But anyways, you can affix or attach very easily. It's just like little hooks types of things where you can hook up resistance bands to the sides of the plate effortlessly. Just loop it in there, just loop it around the side. Or a strap system if you want to use that too. And those same kind of handlebar things you can use to then carry the plate. If you have a very heavy plate, this is what I've done at some clinics when I've set them up, is that if you have like something that's a couple 100 pounds, it's very simple. You just get one of those furniture box movers, little hand trucks that you tilt. I effortless way to basically move some of the larger plates. Even if it's steel, it's really not a big deal at all once you tilt it back on one of those either luggage movers, they're called, or box movers. You've probably seen you tilt it back. And those are pretty cheap. And then you can just kind of wheel that thing wherever the heck you want. Not really a big deal. Just so you know, in general, the handlebars, it's best, if you want handlebars in your system, it's best to have it come pre-done, pre-attached when you get your order. It's a little bit of extra hassle after the fact to have handlebars added on after. It's something that cannot be done for Vibecage. You can't really add them on afterwards. With the other ones you can. It's a little bit more complicated, shipping and all that type of thing. So probably something you want to figure out ahead of time. Shouldn't be too hard to figure out if you're going to want handlebars on there or not. And if you ever want to take them off, you find that, okay, we're really not going to use them. Fine, not a problem really to take them off. Very easy to do on the outside with the wrench and so on and so forth. So what else can I say about this? It is a very unique brand, widely accepted. One thing that I respect that this company did that not really any other brands out there have done to quite this degree, and very few have even attempted at all, which is basically collect a lot of information from users. So it could be home users, licensed healthcare practitioners, athletes, you name it, everybody and everybody. Doctors, so on and so forth. And they've actually put all that information into a library where you can then search by specific condition. And so, what's interesting is there have been studies out there, obviously, on vertical vibration machines. There have been studies on pivotal machines. Actually been more studies with vertical machines for a longer period of time. But regardless, no company in general, with the exception of a couple companies out there, but in general, most companies aren't going to spend millions of dollars to do their own specialty studies. As long as they can make a machine that's close to the specs of other machines that have been used in studies. And at the end of the day, remember this, that results and research that you get in a study, that's helpful, very helpful, and necessary. Okay, but at the same time, there's also such thing called real-world results, right? What actually happens in the field? What happens when there's 1,000 Vibeplate users? I mean, is it going to mirror the studies? Is it not? What's that going to be like? That's very vital, also very important information. In some ways, if you can collect that information, it's going to tell you a lot of other things that studies could never really tell you. Again, how it really performs in real-world situations, which you could never do that many studies, right? Expensive studies to really give you the full picture of thousands of users over years and years and years. So what they've done is taken them a while to collect all this information. Imagine what we could learn, for example, from a whole bunch of chiropractors who are using this in their practice and have been for years, right? We could probably learn a lot. They've probably learned different sorts of ways to position it with their protocols, what to do, what not to do to get better results with this type of condition versus this type of condition. Again, you're not going to spend millions of dollars on studies to test all these different conditions. Where's that money going to come from, right? So just to even do those studies. So that's really helpful. I talked with helped a client last week who basically was getting one for their father who had Parkinson's, and you're not going to look to finding amazing Parkinson's study. Maybe, hopefully, at some point in the future. Doesn't really exist. We know some of the mechanisms on a cellular level of how vibration therapy works, and we could actually infer indirectly, based on what we know it does to the cells, how it could help these different types of conditions. We can't make a direct statement like, this will, treat Parkinson's, and of course, the FDA would be all over that anyways, right? But we do definitely have a lot of feedback from people who have used it for Parkinson's, clinics that are using it as part of an adjunct therapy, as part of a whole program that they're doing to be more effective, to have better efficacy. We do know that, and that's very important information. These people have been working with, for example, Parkinson's patients and other neurological diseases and conditions, right? And then they bring in a Vibeplate, for example. They start using that for a while. If they've been around, they've been doing their normal program for a while, know the type of results they get with existing protocols, when they add something new in, it's going to generally be noticeable, especially after some period of time. So that's all in the field consensus and feedback that is very helpful. And that's where we start to learn things like, the range on the Vibeplate goes from 10 to 60 hertz. Where in that range, is going to be maybe a frequency that's more helpful for this condition or this health goal or this type of exercise program that I want to do to get these types of results. Again, it would cost millions of dollars of studies to break that down. Nobody's spent that money to do all of that. Okay, so you, the consumer, are probably thinking like, well, I have this unique need, or I want to help these type of people, or whatever it is. Again, that's why it's nice that they've collected all this consensus feedback, because then we can say like, oh, 45 hertz, when you're doing this type of movement for this type of functional exercise and this condition with your knee is really, really helpful. We've seen good results. Okay, so then you can try that. Maybe you'll get results. Maybe you'll get so-so results. Obviously, everybody's still unique, right? And it also depends on your personal lifestyle choices and all that kind of stuff. But at least gives you a huge head start to be able to cite information and see what has worked out there, what hasn't worked out there. That's a big leg up, because again, you're still going to learn on your own about just how you feel and the results you get, and you'll adjust things, personalize or customize it to yourself always, right? There's not going to be any magic formulation. Use 33 hertz and we guarantee you're going to have these results. If any machine out there is really making absolute guarantee type of statements, then it's just marketing bullshit for the most part. Everybody is still unique. So at least get as much good quality information as you can get. At least Vibeplate is supplying a lot of that good information, which again gives you a big head start to experiment and try your own things, see what's worked for other people, etc. And of course, you can always chat with me as well. But I think that's probably it, covering this machine. As far as picking different types of plate sizes, which is pretty much then becomes the main decision, because that part is very unique. That's something that you just want to put in an email inquiry to me, or call me up and we can walk you through, depending on if you're a practitioner, if you're just going to be using it at home, etc. And it's actually pretty easy to figure out. What you can do with their smallest plate in terms of the vibration quality, right, and the specs on that and the speed, that's going to be the same in all the plates. So really the only thing that we're looking at is with handlebars, the weight of the machine, and the actual dimensions, and that has more to do with what type of movements are you going to do on the plate. Basically, what type of exercises do you want to do and why, meaning what's your need, right? What's your purpose for doing that specific thing? Once you assess that, then you'll know exactly, okay, well, we're going to need that plate, that particular one. But again, anything you can do with the largest plate in terms of the therapy that it gives you, keep one thing in mind, that there's the frequency and there's amplitude and g-force and there's all that kind of stuff that comes off of a plate on a machine, right? But, and this is an important point to make, is that there's probably at least 70%, again, there's no accurate study, but people who've used these plates and known exercise science for a while know that the vast majority of results you get with any sort of training equipment, any equipment, any machine, the majority of the results have to do with how you're using and integrating that machine and that equipment. So again, it's not going to be like, I got this particular Vibeplate dimension and the results were through the roof, right? They're going to give similar results. It's just that you could look at it this way, that having a slightly larger plate where you then can do a little bit more movements and exercises, because maybe you just need more space on the plate to do bigger movements or more comprehensive exercises. By bringing in more exercises and functional movements, you will get better results, because you're continuing to build, again, skills and training and activating different parts of your muscles and your neuro system by, again, doing a larger variety of movements. There could be some restrictions if you go with the smallest 24 by 24 that you just simply can't do certain exercise on that very small plate. So that would be one way to look at it. The one that will give you maybe the bigger benefits would be like a 24 by 40, okay, versus a 24 by 24. and that'll allow you to continue to grow into the long term of bringing in new movements and continuing to challenge yourself. You could be limited in a way, basically, by the 24 by 24. Again, it's because it's a very smaller, or their smallest plate. In terms of comparing the 24 by 24 to other plates out there, it's actually average. So in other words, most plates on most machines of brands out there are very small plates. So that, they're kind of limiting for the most part. And then usually, again, you have that tower, that control panel in the back of a small plate for most brands, which just further limits you. If you have any more questions, this video kind of got a little bit long, but there's a lot to say really about this brand because it is very unique, this company. Send me a message, shoot me an email. Thanks for watching.